Welcome to my new series for I205 Gaming, everybody. I'm your friendly neighborhood stoner, Johnny Vegas, and this first episode of the series is going to be about Andy Dalton. And I know it might be weird for a lot of you listening or watching that I'm picking Andy Dalton as the first guy I do, but don't worry. Hopefully I'm going to try to get this series progressively better. I've just been I've been thinking about players, and this was the random one I really decided to choose because this upcoming game, this next week against the Ravens, is going to be a playoff, basically a playoff deciding game. The Ravens are pretty much, I think they've already clinched. They're in. But if the Bengals win, it'll bump my Raiders off of the wild card most likely if they beat the Chargers, which is a coin flip in itself. And then it'll give the Bengals the wild card spot to be in the playoffs. And pretty much this is all because of Andy Dalton. There has been, their defense has stepped it up, but offensively their points have been mostly scored by Andy Dalton. They had a 5-game win streak where Andy Dalton did pretty well. We'll talk about that. But first I just wanted to go into the season stats for him. They're not going to seem as impressive, but stats aren't everything unless you need to watch this kid play. He's not the most clutch player. He's not the greatest player in the NFL. I'm not saying that. I'm just going to be talking as objectively as possible about this guy and what I think about him and why I think he's underrated. I believe he's underrated because he's like 12th in passing yards and 12th. He's a middle-of-the-pack player. For you fantasy players, he's a good backup quarterback to have in emergency situations. Also, in good matchups, he does very well. But as far as real-life football goes, I know fantasy football relates to real-life football, but when you're watching real-life football, there's a different factor than just stats. There's also a factor of, how the player feels on the field and all that. But we're not going to get so deep into this, all right? We're not going to be that crazy. And I'm not going to play defense, obviously, because this is about Andy Dalton. So we're just going to hope. This was last week's game that Andy Dalton played. We'll talk a little bit about how well he did in that game. And we'll also talk about some bad games, just so you guys don't think I'm just sucking his cock or whatever. Anyway, this year Andy Dalton has not been doing too horribly. He's had a couple really good weapons to throw to. Jerome Simpson right there, incomplete pass to him. And, of course, the infamous A.J. Green, who in the latter parts of the year hasn't been the greatest weapon for him. But, it is the Bengals. They are a kind of streaky team. You need to kind of watch yourself. You don't want to start a lot of these players in fantasy football. A.J. Green is a good start pretty much by week, but, it's all about the matchups, really. What I'm going to talk about here mostly is why I think Andy Dalton's underrated. And mostly it's because Tebow's been getting all this press, and nobody's really been paying attention to the other quarterbacks in the league. Even Cam Newton isn't given a high enough praise this year in terms of what he's been doing, and he's been absolutely on fire. His defense cannot hold the game together for him when they get the lead. They seem to choke away every lead that they get. But, it happens. And you see Andy Dalton's getting some good play calling in, getting his people down the field. Anyway, Andy Dalton, 278 completions, 472 attempts, 58.9% completion percentage, 3,166 yards, 20 touchdowns, 13 picks, which is where people will be a little bit turned off about him, but I have a theory about the 13 picks, and also has a rushing touchdown and 135 yards rushing on the season. Which, he's a quarterback. He doesn't need that many rushing yards. I shouldn't have thrown it to him. Where Andy Dalton struggles the most is when he has a deficit in the fourth quarter by about 7 points. He seems to have an issue trying to force the ball into situations, and I think it's mostly because they don't have that many weapons on offense, so it's really easy to cover them defensively when they're down because you know where Andy Dalton's going. Most of the time he goes to A.J. Green, Jerome Simpson. He's got Caldwell back there, but he doesn't really go to him that often. And their running game isn't the best. Their defense is pretty decent. They have the 5th ranked rushing defense, and I believe the 10th or 11th ranked passing defense. Let me make sure that that's true. I don't want to give you guys false information. But again, like and subscribe. My channel, 12th actually in passing yards. Like the video, subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to I205 Gaming. Leave them a comment over there telling me you like their shit. They have some cool videos on their channel, like Skyrim videos. They have this game called like Amnesia or something like that they've been doing on there too. It's pretty cool. But the Skyrim videos have been my favorite so far on there. I've been watching those. I really enjoy the guy who commentates those ones. Check out the channel though. Subscribe there. You guys will enjoy the videos. If you guys like machinima type videos and stuff like that, that's what we do. I'm completely unedited. I don't know about those guys. They seem completely unedited also. Like they just play and do whatever, live commentary. And that's what I like about this channel is we're realistic. We're not trying to make this thing a TV show. It's on YouTube. It's for people to enjoy. And the quality that comes out of what we talk about and what we show on the channel is just as good as any other channel, I believe. So, and that's not to just suck our own cocks, but that's, it's the truth. Entertainment is entertainment, and you can look at it however way you want. That's what it is. I don't know why I went on that rant, but check out the damn channel. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, moving on for more Andy Dalton. So they went on a 5-game win streak around the middle of the season, starting in, I want to say September or November. They beat the Bills in Cincinnati, then Jacksonville in Jacksonville, Indianapolis in Cincinnati, Seattle in Seattle, and Tennessee in Tennessee. So, based on that in itself, you can see they haven't had the toughest competition this year. But they have played other teams that they've kept up with that are tough teams to play in the division. Probably their toughest loss was the second loss of the season against the Denver Broncos, where they lost by 2 points, 24-22. And Andy Dalton outproduced himself that game. He threw for 332 yards for 2 touchdowns, and had a great game. Couldn't hold on to the lead, I guess, and they just lost. So that game was followed by a loss to San Francisco, where Andy Dalton threw 2 picks. So as you can see just by that, Andy Dalton is not the most reliable and consistent player, but he is underrated for his skill level. I believe he doesn't have that many weapons on offense. He does have a big weapon on offense like A.J. Green, but he doesn't have the greatest weapons on offense. And he doesn't have the greatest O-line, but he's making do with what he has, and he's been doing well so far. He's got the fucking Bengals going to the playoffs along with the rest of his defense. His defense been doing pretty good. Anyway, I haven't been doing that well with him in the gameplay. I'm sorry. I don't really use him that often on the game, and I probably should have played the game a couple more times before I did the video. But why is that exciting? If I record it and he's just a beast on the video, and you guys don't see the way he almost really plays, and this would be how he really plays. Though his game against the Arizona Cardinals, he was 18 for 31 for 154 yards, but 2 touchdowns. He doesn't get the yards all the time, but he does get it in the end zone when he needs to. The toughest game they're going to have to bounce back from is that Bengals-Baltimore game that they lost earlier this year by 7, that they probably could have won, honestly. I didn't watch the game, so I don't really know exactly, but he went 24 for 45 for 373 yards, a touchdown, but he threw 3 picks to that Baltimore defense. So hopefully, and I'm not a Bengals fan, I'm just saying, as a football fan, after a game like that, you bounce back and you do a game like he had the game after. He had 21 for 31. Excuse me. He was 21 for 31. I don't know why I'm showing the defense. Let me just... Oh, shit. It's because they're running no huddle. Let me call timeout. Fuck it. Give me a second to super sim. I'm just super simming. 1 sec. Alright, so they punted the ball. Anyway, he went 21 or 31 for 270 yards and a touchdown. Damn, dude, I got some phlegm from the wine I drank last night. Anyway, and he only had 1 touchdown, but despite that, they won the game against the Browns, 23-20, and he had 105 passer rating. Yeah, these games against shitty teams are fairly close and things like that, but you can't excuse what's there. I mean, he's a decent quarterback. He produces for his team, and he has his team going into the playoffs. He in his last 5 games, and he's played Pittsburgh, mind you, and Houston, who, give or take, has a decent defense. On some weeks they do, some weeks they don't. They're streaky team just as much as the Bengals are, and they're doing just as well, I believe, as the Bengals. Anyway, in the last 5 games, he's thrown 1 interception, and in the last 5 games, they won 3 of 5, mostly because their defense and Andy Dalton not being able to throw to whatever receiver he's trying to get to. They didn't even really throw the ball that much against that Pittsburgh team. They probably didn't have that much time with the ball, seeing as Pittsburgh's a fucking ball hog, fumbles, things like that. They like their time of possession. There's halftime, 3-0 still in this game. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the way, he's not the worst quarterback in the league. He's not the best quarterback in the league. He's one of those quarterbacks that's just underrated. Nobody talks about him, but they're in the playoffs, which you would think somebody would bring up that team and what they're doing, and how they're still playoff contenders, though. I mean, what kind of team is this? This isn't the Chargers, all right? And I know a lot of people don't think that the Chargers are a good team. I'm a AFC West. I'm a Raider fan. There's Jerome Simpson with a fumble. I'm a Raiders fan. I've seen the Chargers at their best and at their worst. And this team that the Chargers have, I was absolutely, completely petrified of the beginning of this year. For some reason, Phillip Rivers decided that he didn't want to play football this year, and he fucking threw so many interceptions that just put his teams out of games. I believe it was some injury against Pittsburgh early in the season, where he got injured on a hit to the chest, and he had been straining that chest, I guess that whatever muscle or whatever he got hurt, he had been straining it when he was going on that streak of bad interceptions. That's what the team said, but we're not talking about the Chargers. What I'm saying is the Chargers have a great defense, they have a great offense, and they didn't come to produce this year. The Bengals have an okay defense and an okay offense, and they've come and produced, and they're a playoff contender. And a lot of it is because Andy Dalton has kept them in games with touchdowns. He has had only 1 game where he threw more than... His most touchdowns in a game has been 3. And that's not like a Aaron Rodgers type stat or anything like that people are looking for. But he's a good backup fantasy quarterback. If you know your matchups and you know what you're looking for, you can start him and be okay starting him in certain situations. If you got an injured quarterback, if your quarterback's going up an iffy defense, if you didn't get a quarterback drafted high in the draft this year, then you can pick him up. He's all right. He'll get you points, but you got to be careful who you start him against. Watch your matchups, because the teams that have the good defenses, San Francisco, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, those games, even Seattle, who has a decent defense but no offense and couldn't keep up with them. Seattle lost that game this year, 34-12, but they had 2 interceptions in the game. When he goes up a really good defense, that's when he struggles. That's when he really struggles, is when he goes up against a decent defense. And when he's down late in the games. When he's down late in games, in the fourth quarter, when he's down by 7 points, he has a touchdown and 4 interceptions. So what the offensive line needs to do is get him a little bit more protection. What the coaches need to do is get him a little bit more, give him some more fucking weapons out there for him to throw to. They need to draft in this next draft, trade up, get a good receiver, get somebody that he can throw to. He has some good people, but get him some more people so that the defense doesn't just focus on A.J. Green every game, and he can actually get the ball to the guy instead of trying to throw to him 3 out of 4 downs and not being able to get to him because he's the only guy he can fucking throw to. Now, I'm not discounting Jerome Simpson or Gresham as decent receivers or tight end, but they need somebody else out there to help him. They need somebody. And if they do get somebody this next year, you guys better watch out for the Bengals, because they got some fire under their asses and they want to win games. And they've been showing it. They've been doing quite well. I've been quite impressed with the Bengals this year. Oh, A.J. Green almost pulls that in corner of the end zone. Andy Dalton put that right on the money. A.J. just couldn't come up with the catch. That was a nice pass by Dalton there. See, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. If you can't get it to A.J. Green, it's most of the time it's just because he's fucking double covered or the guy doesn't want to get him catch the ball. Anyway, in the 5 games that they won, I can't tally up the yards right now because I'm doing this live, but he has 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 touchdowns. And keep in mind, these teams aren't the best teams in the league, but they do have some decent defenses on their team. I mean, the fucking Titans have Cortland Finnegan, and they lost 24-17 to the Bengals. And Andy Dalton threw for 217 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. But he has 10 touchdowns on about 5 interceptions in those 5 winning games. And those interceptions came against, like I said earlier, crazy defensive teams that have the potential to just win games by their defense, really. If you've seen Seattle lately, a lot of their wins have come off of Marshawn Lynch and their defense getting giving their team decent field position by giving the other team no chance to score. So, if you're watching football, keep your eye on the Bengals. If they can get the fire up their ass for these next couple games, it's possible. It is completely possible for them to beat that Ravens team who hasn't really done much, especially with the Bengals' pretty decent defense this year. They are, like I might have said it earlier, 5th in rushing yards allowed and 12th in passing yards allowed, though the problem that's going to arise for Andy Dalton and the Bengals is playing against that Ravens defense, who is 2nd, I believe, in rushing yards allowed, and 5th or 6th in passing yards. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but you can get the picture. They're going to have an issue because they don't have a running game, they don't have weapons on defense, and the Ravens D is stacked. All right? That's what I'm trying to say for the real football. All right? That's all. That's what I'm trying to get into. In the last 5 games, Dalton hasn't been able to pick up a win, but he has been playing playoff contending teams. Pittsburgh, playoff contending team. They're in the wild card right now. They're probably going to be a wild card team. And Houston, who I believe clinched their first playoff berth in franchise history this year. and they lost by one. The Bengals lost by 1 point to that playoff team, who's definitely in the playoffs. So they're keeping up with the teams. The only team they really got blown out by was Pittsburgh, and the game before that they played against them, they kept up with them. They lost 35-7 in the most recent game against Pittsburgh, but they lost the other game against Pittsburgh 24-17, and Andy Dalton had 2 touchdown passes in that game. The game where they lost, Andy Dalton only had 1 touchdown pass and didn't throw over his average passing attempts. He threw his second lowest on the season, and they didn't. And of course, that Pittsburgh defense did not give him a fucking single chance to get the ball down the field to AJ Green, because they were pressuring him because they have no O-line over there for the Bengals. So if this team builds around Andy Dalton, and they build around the type of player that he is, and he gets a little bit better through maturing through the game, I believe that Andy Dalton could be one of the quarterbacks that you see in the game often, that has his team winning games pretty often. Kind of like I guess you can say, not like a Matt Ryan, because Matt Ryan's pretty good. More like an Alex Smith. He's a decent passer, and he's a decent game manager, and he can bring his team more wins if they just have more people to help him out. That's all I'm trying to say. And I guess I went pretty long on the NFL portion, fantasy football and all. But as far as the game's concerned, for Madden itself, Andy Dalton is kind of tough to use. And I believe it's because the way they do the ratings and stuff like that for the progressive player system for this game, it's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit, what can you say, not completely accurate to how the players are in real life. But if you do utilize him the way you should utilize him, there you see Arizona going for it on 4th down. I decided to show you guys that just so I could show you pretty much the ending of the game. But if you can't, I forgot what I was saying. That's my stoner talk. I forgot what I was saying. Anyway, keep your eye on the Bengals. If they get another good running back, I'm not saying Cedric Benson, Bernard Scott aren't great running backs, but they need an O-line to block for these guys. It's the only way they're going to get yards, is if you get an O-line to block for these guys. And if you can't have time in the pocket, you have to run it. And they've shown this year, Andy Dalton has 33 rushing attempts this year for 135 yards. I know he doesn't really rush often. There's a touchdown to AJ Green. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If he gets the open pass, if he gets time in the pocket and AJ Green runs his route, they're not double covering him. All these factors have to come in for him to be a great quarterback. And they shouldn't have, I know that they don't have the most money over there. Salary cap's not crazy, but they have potential, this team, and Andy Dalton has potential, and all these guys, they can possibly be good within the next couple years. They can be a very, very, very feared team in the nation, and it's not uncommon to see these types of teams in the league. And I could be completely wrong. I'm saying it's a possibility this guy could be really good, and I believe that he's an underrated player just because all these other players in the nation right now are doing these crazy things. There's 3 possible records being able to be broken. Drew Brees just broke the single passing yards record the passing yards record in a single season over Dan Marino last night against I forgot who they played. I don't have the stuff right in front of me, so I can't tell you. But he dominated. All right. I don't know what else to say about this guy. I don't know what else to tell you. Try him out on Madden. See if you kind of like the team. One of my buddies started a franchise with this team, and he seemed to have fun with it. I'm thinking about starting a franchise with this team because I'm having fun playing with them right now. And I'm going to I would possibly try to draft or pick up better players offensively. And maybe my theory would be correct. Maybe if they just had some O-line and a little bit of a better team, they could do something amazing. I'm going to sim to the end of the game here. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you liked the series. I hope I said some stuff that kind of rang well with you guys, and you guys agree with me on some things. I know a lot of the time I'm rambling, but I'm just trying to get my thoughts out before the video's over, and I didn't get to say everything I wanted to say about him, but I said what needed to be said about him and what people need to hear about this guy. I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm not a Andy Dalton fan per se. I'm a big football fan, and I can look at all these teams objectively and see their flaws, see their potential, and this is what I want in this series. I want you guys to also see what I see in these players, and that's why I'm trying to portray to you. So if you like the video, like it. Like and subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. I have Madden videos. I'm going to start Dirt 3 videos, and I'm also going to start... I might start some Homefront videos because I've actually been enjoying the online for that game quite a bit. But stay tuned. I have Titans and Rams franchise on my channel. Those are my semi-popular videos. We'll check out the stats right here. Kind of a shitty game for stats, but you can see Andy Dalton, he was 9 for 13 for 73 yards and a touchdown, the only touchdown pass in the game, and the only touchdown in the game too. So, I mean, not very it doesn't justify what I was saying about the guy, but I was playing 5-minute quarters and I didn't really have much time to just keep tossing the ball down the field. But he didn't complete 4 passes, and in that real game, I believe he did something similar. I wanted to talk about that game. Let me just bring up the stats of that game just super quick. Just give me a second. Anyway, if you guys like a rookie quarterback and you're looking to start a franchise and you want a rookie quarterback that's not Cam Newton or fucking Tim Tebow, who I don't like. I don't like Tim Tebow. I'll talk about him all the time about why I don't like him. It almost seems like I'm obsessed with the guy because I don't like him so much. But there you see, A.J. Green, always his number 1 receiver. 5 receptions, 55 yards, and he had the touchdown pass. Anyway, I'm just going to check this. Oh, it was Falcons versus Saints, and the Saints won 45-16. Absolutely dominated. Let me look up this game for the Bengals. Right here. So Dalton was 18 for 31 for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think I said that earlier. And that game is very similar to how he played in this game. And but Gresham had that ridiculous touchdown where he jumped over an Arizona defender, did a gymnastics front flip, and landed on his feet. That was insane. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. Take it easy, everybody. Stay tuned next week for the next underrated NFL player video, Marshawn Lynch.